Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Craig Burrell, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Army Medical Corps is Warrant Officer Class 1, Virginia Morris. This evening we welcome the members of the National Servicemen's Association of Australia, ACT branch, and their family members who are here with us today. This year commemorates the 59th anniversary of the second National Service Scheme. The National Service Act 1964 required males aged 20 years and older to register to serve in the Defence Force for a period of 2 years continuous service, followed by 3 years in the Reserve Forces. In 1965, the Defence Act was amended, and as a result, national servicemen known as NASHOs could be sent overseas and indeed were deployed to Vietnam. Between 1965 and 1972, more than 800,000 men registered for national service. Around 63,000 NASHOs were conscripted and more than 15,000 served in the Vietnam War. Over 200 were killed and 1,200 wounded. Today, we remember all those who served under the National Service Scheme. We pay our respects to the men and women commemorated here on the Roll of Honour and to the survivors who returned home. We warmly welcome Mr John King, President of the Return and Services League Australia, ACT branch. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of this ceremony is made possible by the Returned and Services League of Australia and the RSL and Services Clubs Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the National Anthem. Please be seated if you can do so. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn their loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as described in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit in the hearts of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the pool of reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Private Stephen Henry Elphick. Stephen Elphick, known as Harry, was born in 1894 to Stephen and Elizabeth Elphick of Tumut, New South Wales. His father was active in Labor politics and the local Labor League. Harry was educated at the Convent of Mercy School in Tumut and went on to become a telegraph line repairman. Like his father, Harry took on an interest in Labor politics, becoming the chairman of the Tumut Committee of the Australian Workers' Union. Harry Elphick enlisted in the Australian Imperial Force in July 1916. He underwent a period of training in Australia before leaving for active service overseas with reinforcements to the 55th Battalion in October 1916. He was first sent to England, arriving at Devonport shortly after Christmas and catching the train to Salisbury Plain to continue training. Private Elphick arrived in England during the bitterly cold winter of 1916 and 1917, one of the coldest on record. Most of the training undertaken was conducted outside, with the idea that the cold weather would harden the men. A significant portion of them became sick, however, including Private Harry Elphick. He was taken to hospital in Favant, a small village near his training camp. Diagnosed with bronchopneumonia, his condition quickly worsened. A number of Harry's friends from Tumut district had been on the same troop ship, and although in a different reinforcement group, were also in training near Favant. Someone thought to send news to them that Harry was in hospital and dying. They recorded that some of us visited him at hospital, and although he was then partly delirious, he recognised us. One of the men in the group, Private J. McNamara, wrote, "We went to see him when we got the sad news to say he was dying. He was quite cheerful and knew us all right and said he would soon be out again, but he was dead a few hours after. The group of young soldiers wrote to Harry's family to say, "We make haste to tender our deep sympathy with you all in your loss. He was always with the boys from Tumut, so that we feel his loss, being one of ourselves, knowing fully how his interests and hopes were so centred around you and how greatly his loss will be felt. Our sympathy is but deeper, and deep is our regret that he has not been spared to you." Private McNamara recalled that Harry was given a lovely funeral. His coffin was carried on a gun carriage and the band played Dead March. Private Harry Elphick was buried in the Baverstock churchyard where he lies today beneath the words, "To live in hearts we leave behind is not to die." Harry Elphick, the young man willing to go to war and who died before reaching the battlefield, was 23 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my right, among almost 62,000 Australians who died while serving in the First World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Private Stephen Henry Elphick, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, and in the hope of a better world.
Please stand for the ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall grow not old as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Poziere or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the Director, staff and volunteers, we thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support during the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening.